Start. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Coleman. I'm from the Howe Library, and and thanks so much for coming. We usually do this in person, but because of COVID and it being kind of a small space, we thought it better to maybe do it virtual again this year. But fingers crossed for next year, we can do it in person again because it's really a lovely show. It always is, but this year particularly, it seems really nice to have it back physically up in the library as well. So.
Okay.
I'm going to hand it off to Lisa.
All right. Hello, everyone. You've seen me for the past 9 years, probably chatting to you. I'm Lisa Lacaze, and on behalf of Howe Library and the Eldon Murray exhibition and competition, we welcome you. It's very exciting. I'm a local photographer and I've run the Quechee Area Camera Club for the past 10 years, and we've been involved with Eldon Murray for the past 9. I'm fortunate to have an actual show this year. That's very exciting. It looks wonderful. I encourage everyone to stop by and see it. It looks fabulous. It's the 46th year for this show, which is pretty incredible. I'm just going to share my screen and just show you what the show is looking like for a few minutes. And let me just, whoops, I just threw them right into Lightroom real quick, just so we could see what's going on. That's our photo of Eldon Murray, who it's named after, obviously, and I'll talk about him a little bit later. There's Emil Rube and our judge, Kurt Budlinger. And then here is the animal category. There is the people category, the landscape category, and let's see, for some reason, there we go. We've got the other category. Under 18 is 2 different walls. And then you can see how it stretches through the gallery at Howe Library upstairs and then down the walls on the side there. So, you know, I know we're doing this part virtually, but what's really special is that the show is hung. And so that's what we're real excited about. So hopefully, as Megan said, next year we'll be able to move forward. I do want to recognize some people. Shows like this are run by volunteers. We're all volunteers. They just don't happen. And it takes special people who make time in their schedules to volunteer and help out. And so I need to thank Daniel Goldberg, Patty Richard, Lee Shen, Kitty Stanley, Mark Bierman, and George Scotton, and our judge Kurt, who also volunteers, and of course Megan, for helping out and making this show what it is. So thank you. The other 2 people I want to talk about, Megan Coleman. She has been our liaison at Howe Library for several years. She sets up everything at her end for reserving rooms, making sure the calendar is all set, the gallery space is organized, making sure we can find our supplies, and just making our job as volunteers so much easier. So thank you, Megan. We really appreciate that. And the other person I need to recognize is George Scotton. George is the show. I am the one that chats. I get the easy job. You get to see my face, which might not be so easy on all of you, but I'm the one that, you know, kind of does the back scenes here, but it's really George who holds this show together. He's the main force behind the show. He does computer stuff that I wouldn't even know what it's all about. He sends out registration stuff, emails to participants. He's communicating with people. He's organizing there. He receives all your entries. He's there when you pick them back up. He adds all the tabs to the photos. He takes pictures of all your photos so we can share them. He just kind of does it all. So George, with each and every year, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your smile, your energy, we all love you. And a big round of applause, because you just, all your hard work, all your incredible, you know, detail work is much, much appreciated. Okay, Eldon Murray. This is an amateur show, and Eldon Murray was an accomplished amateur photographer in Hanover who believed that everyone should experience their images in print format. Now, back when he was a photographer, he was doing slide and film. So it's pretty amazing that over time, this is still very true. We're in a digital world, and yet how special it is that you've taken the time to print your images. It's so important. And so that's what Eldon always wanted. And of course, he never knew we were going to go into the digital world, but it has certainly withstood the test of time to still print your images. He was president of the Dartmouth Savings Bank for many years in Hanover and was a key figure in the Upper Valley community. He was widely known and well loved. He had been an ardent amateur, not only photographer, but videographer. And he and his wife loved sharing the films and photography of all our vacations. When he passed suddenly in 1975, Emil Rube, who at the time owned the local Hanover camera shop, set up the Eldon Murray exhibition and competition with his wife. Emil Rube, who was born in Guntersblum, Germany in 1906, immigrated to this country. When Hitler came to power, Mr. Rube took the study of photography to a new level. He had been an accomplished hobbyist, and so he decided he would need a marketable skill in the United States. So he really studied photography, and when he did immigrate to the US in 1938, he found a job working at the camera shop of Hanover, and then eventually bought the shop from the previous proprietor. And he was a wonderful man. He was actually a neighbor of mine when I was growing up, and he and his family were just lovely. He was a great guy. So I just want a little history of who Eldon Murray is and Emil Rube, since we do have 2 awards that we'll talk about at the end. I want to commend everyone who has entered, and thank you for making this such a wonderful show. It's not easy to make the decision to display your image in a show for all to see and for a judge to judge. Choosing the image can be frustrating, paralyzing, and fraught with stress. And then you have to name it, enter it. But as I tell everyone at the Camera Club, it's really a good thing to get out of your comfort zone. So to everyone who's entered the show, you're already a winner. Congratulations to all the participants. You should be very, very proud that you took this step and you entered, and you have your images displayed. So congratulations. I have to say the images in this show are wonderful, creative, sharp, wonderful storytelling, and some of the best in recent years. Our judge this year is Kurt Budlinger, a professional photographer from Vermont, Montpelier, Vermont area. He's been photographing the natural landscape for about 20 years. He's been a lifestyle photographer for the past 10. He's also been a wedding photographer, and many of his photographs and articles have appeared in numerous books and magazines. He is the founder and lead instructor at Green Mountain Photographic Workshops and leads photo workshops all around the US and abroad. So with that, Kurt, let's get started. What do you think?
Sounds good, Lisa.
All right, let me, I need to talk about the categories. Sorry, a few more minutes with me. We have 5 categories with first and second place, and then honorable mentions in each of those categories. In addition to those categories, we have 2 other awards. The Eldon Murray Family Award is given out for an outstanding photograph taken by a first-time entrant to the Eldon Murray exhibition and competition. And the Emil Rube Award is given to the person whose photograph is selected by staff, library staff, to be outed to Howe's permanent circulating art collection, which is an incredible art collection that you can actually, if I'm correct, Megan, you can actually check out of the library and hang for several weeks in your home.
Yes, so we have, it's a lot of art prints, and then there's obviously a lot of photos from the Eldon Murray contest as well, and they go up for 6 weeks, and then if no one has a hold on it, you can have it for 2 more renewals. So you could have it for up to 18 weeks, I think that is.
Awesome. So yeah. something for you to do with that. Okay, let me start my screen, and Kurt and I will get this started. Give me just a second to get to the right pictures. Winning photos. Okay. So we are going to start with the animal category. Whoops, wait a minute. Let me even get this bigger. How do I get rid of you guys? There we go. Okay. Kurt.
All right. Well, thank you for inviting me to judge this year. This was the second time that I had the honor of judging your print competition. And first, I want to say that I was very, very impressed with all of the images that were submitted. Some of these categories were very difficult to judge from my perspective. There were a number of images I felt like could have easily, been first or second. So kudos to everybody that submitted work. It was very, very nice. The other thing that I want to just mention briefly before we kind of dig into this is I spend a lot of time not only as a working photographer, but also as a photo educator. And one of the things that I spend a lot of time doing is working with photographers, mentoring photographers, and critiquing their work. And so when I'm looking at a photograph as sort of, a first-time objective observer, having not been, at the location or participated in whatever event it was that was being photographed, I'm completely separate from the experience that the photographer had. And so the first thing that I want to say is that I like to make a little joke that I feel like photo competitions are kind of like competitive yoga, because yoga and any mindfulness practice like that is a very it's a very sort of personal kind of experience. And I feel like making art first and foremost should be a very personal experience. And so so for those of you that did not, quote unquote, win in any of these categories or get an honorable mention, I want you to know that it's not that your photo is no less because of that. And I really want to emphasize the fact that we make art first and foremost for ourselves, and that should be and needs to be good enough, right? If we enjoyed the experience and we as the creator find value in the image or the resulting work, then that's the successful piece of artwork in my own personal experience. So that first. Second, whenever I critique or look at photographs, I feel like I always want to look through the lens of what is it that makes a photograph really great, right? Like what elements go into making a truly great photograph? Because there are literally billions of photographs being made every single day and uploaded to social media. So in my mind, I feel like there are three sort of main categories or three legs to that photographic stool about what makes an image great. The first is that there has to be great light. And great light is going to be very different from image to image and subject to subject. So great light is not always, golden hour, right before sunset or right after sunrise. Great light is light that showcases your subject and creates a mood that you're after and helps you communicate that vision, okay? So the light has to be great for the subject and the mood that you're trying to communicate. The second element is a dynamic or strong composition, how we arrange the elements in the frame, because we're experiencing the world in 3 dimensions, and as soon as we click the shutter, everything gets compressed to just 2 dimensions. And images can fall flat, that where the experience in person was very dynamic, but it doesn't come through in the image in a 2-dimensional space because the composition might not be as strong as it could be. And then the third element, and this is the one that I feel like is the hardest to achieve. As photographers, we can control light, we can determine when we go out and what we point our cameras at, and we have complete control over the design process of the image. But the third element is sort of that emotional connection to the viewer. And this is the thing that, as the objective observer, it has to just come through in the photograph, and I don't know that it took you, 3 hours and, it was uphill both ways in a snowstorm to get to the location in order to make that photo. I just know what I'm looking at. And if it doesn't connect with me or it doesn't resonate with me as the objective observer, then maybe it might not be, considered truly great. And that's a tough one because there's so much variability in that. But if you can get all 3 of those elements sort of working in harmony and synergistically, then you're going to have an amazing image. All right, so, and there were a lot of these images in this year's competition. So first and foremost, in the animal category, first place goes to Tig Tillinghast for Bear Palisade, which is the image that we're looking at. I found this image to be incredibly striking. As soon as I saw it, I gravitated right to it. And I've seen a lot of pictures of black bears, but this one was very unique. And I think primarily because of the perspective. It's a low perspective, probably, some kind of game camera or remote, trigger for the camera. But it's very well composed, sort of decisive moment. It's super engaging. It's nice and sharp. There's wonderful atmosphere in the forest behind the bear. And I can't stop looking at this photograph. So this one, hands down for me, was stood right out. So super well done, Tig. And then moving on to the next image, Lisa. All right, so this image is titled Bonding Sniff. And again, this was by Tig Tillinghast. So this was a pretty tough category with a lot of strong entrants. I felt like this image stood out primarily because of the interaction and the moment and gesture between the fox kit and the mother fox. It was easy to engage with this, especially as an animal lover, as a nature lover, as a parent, because it has that, not to anthropomorphize the image, but it's hard not to, right? We see the sort of that loving bond between the parent and the kit here. It's a great composition, perfect positioning. The way that the noses are just touching, it's like that Cartier-Bresson decisive moment, and then the position of the kit's paw fits right into that little notch underneath the chin of the parent. And then the way the two heads are sort of, opposing and creating that nice diagonal line. Very, very nice image. So well done, Tig. And then for the first of the honorable mentions in the animal category, this was a tough one. I mean, this category had so many strong images, you guys. It was tough choosing. This is a wonderful photo by Lorraine Newcomb titled Visitor from the North of a Great Gray Owl. She did a fantastic job capturing the animal in mid-flight. The position of the wings is absolutely critical to the success of this image. It just creates that nice arc, and it sort of, leads, the eye sort of naturally leads right up from those primary feathers up through the wings, right to that face. And then she's got the animal kind of moving through the frame. So there's a little bit more space in front of the owl because, the suggested motion is to the left. And so it's not too cramped. It's nice and sharp. And that background, that out of focus bouquet is just wonderful. So very, very nice job, Lorraine. The next honorable mention, this was a super engaging photo as well. This is by Kevin Rose, and it's titled Eye to Eye of this garter snake. Again, this is a great use of perspective, kind of like that black bear shot. It's a nice low perspective. We're right at eye level with this snake. It's super engaging. The eyes, when I saw this print, that was the other thing, looking at these images in printed form, it's much different than looking at them on the screen. And it was very, very engaging. It was tack sharp on both sides with those eyes. And then I really liked the use of shallow depth of field here. So everything in front and in the back of that plane of focus kind of falls off into a nice soft out of focus. Really, really nice job. Nice light, great contrast, great color. So great work. And then the last honorable mention in this category was by Jay Hull, entitled You and Me, of a brown bear female and her cub. Looks like young of the year, kind of peeking out from behind mom. At this age, at this time of the summer, they don't stray too far from mama. I really liked how intense the gaze of the female sow was. The eyes are tack sharp in the print. Plane of focus is right there. And it was all about the focus in this image. The front and back fall off that plane of focus. So it just engages you to just connect right with the animal's eyes. So very nicely printed and presented as well. So great job. So all in all, the animal category, bunch of really fantastic images and many others that obviously we didn't get a chance to see here. So great job, you guys. The next category is a category that's near and dear to my heart as primarily a landscape and seascape photographer. This is landscapes, cityscapes, and oceanscapes all kind of bundled together. For the first place, we have an image titled Claremont by George Scotton. This image drew me in instantly. It's super well composed, great use of line, great use of repeating shapes as well as lines. We've got this, sort of vanishing point tunnel view looking down, the walkway across the bridge. And then there's some really like that nice sweep in the bridge structure that kind of sweeps up and leads the eye deeper into the frame. And then we've got an additional set of repeating shapes in the background with some nice architectural elements. And then I also love the inclusion of some natural features. You know, it's not just human elements in this image, but we've got, you know, some wonderful vegetation to sort of, you know, frame things out and create a nice color contrast. So very, very well done. It's beautifully printed. So congratulations, George. And then for the second place in this category, titled The Way Through by Daniel Goldberg. This was another image that kind of stopped me in my tracks when I was walking around looking at the prints laid out on the table, because it has an abstract quality to it. You don't know right away what you're looking at. And then when you start to investigate, you start to see, oh, okay, now I know what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a stream with snow. But the way that the repetition of line and the use of contrast here with those strong shadows kind of started to push this into almost a realm of abstract, which I thought was really cool. A great use of leading line, beautiful depth. I think the choice of black and white here was a good choice because there's probably not a lot of color in the original file. So really well done on that one, Daniel. Let's see. And then for the first honorable mention, we have an image titled Driftwood Beach. And this one again is by George Scotton. I thought this image was just super well done. It's very well composed, makes great use of negative space. So negative space is not, you know, it's not bad, not that form of the word negative, but it's the space around the subject that sort of, you know, balances out the positive space, which in this case would be these old trees and clouds. He framed it well. You know, the tree's got a lot of room to sort of reach up into the sky. I like his off-center composition. And then he's got a nice balance between, you know, the standing tree and then the trees that have fallen on either side. So this was very, very nicely done. It was well printed and well presented as well. So nice job, George. For the next honorable mention in this category, we have an image entitled Forgotten Notes by Anna King. I thought this was a super cool image, and I think the title, it really makes it. Very creative title. I thought this one, I love the juxtaposition here between the human element, the piano that's sort of broken and falling, decomposing in the river, in this otherwise, you know, pristine, natural kind of scene. The juxtaposition creates an interesting dissonance for the viewer to try to figure out, like, you know, what's going on here? Is this like the remnants of, you know, after a hurricane or a flood or something like that? Or, you know, did somebody just decide they were going to discard the piano in the river? So this was really cool. The color was really vibrant. It was nicely presented and printed as well. So nice job, Anna. And then the last honorable mention in the category of landscape, cityscape, oceanscape is called Fall at Back Lake by Debbie Tardif. This is just a very nicely done photo. You know, nice overcast light, looks like peak fall foliage. The colors were very vibrant. The print was really well done. It's got some really nice layers, and of course that really pretty and very engaging and energetic reflection. So nice work there, Debbie. All right, then the next category we have people. And this was a cool category as well, with lots of really nice entrants. For the first place position, we have an image by Li Shen titled Tunbridge Fair at Night, or Tunbridge Fair Night. I love the composition here. I love the natural light. I like the sort of low key kind of, you know, dark atmosphere. And then there's the woman behind the counter is perfectly lit. There's, you know, a little bit of light coming from photographer's left that's just sort of kissing across her face. I love the composition. I love the juxtaposition between her and then sort of there's a bit of a balancing element with the bananas on the left side. Very fun, very colorful, nicely printed. So good job, Lee. And then second place, we have an image by Glenn Myers, which is titled The Three Girls. This reminded me of that hear no, see no, speak no evil, you know, with the monkeys with their hands, you know. I loved the light. It is strong light, it's intense light, but it works here. And it's just a fun, you know, lovely photo. It just, you know, brings me back to like childhood, and, you know, I feel like I'm looking at a genuine, you know, innocent, you know, fun summer kind of moment. great composition. It's nice and simple. Background is really nice. And then I love the three repeating elements of the girls. I also like how, oddly enough, I just noticed like the two girls on either end are wearing shorts and the one in the middle is wearing pants. So it's just yet another little fun contrast there that creates a little bit of energy. So nicely done. The next image, or I guess the first in the honorable mention, is called Crossing. And this one again is by Li Shen. I liked this photo a lot. It reminded me of that Beatles album cover. I like the minimalism here. Makes good use of negative space, again, like we were talking about with that landscape photo by George. I like the juxtaposition of the man and the stroller inside that negative space, and then the graphic quality with all those repetitions and contrasts with the white paint on the pavement. Really nicely done. Let's see, the next one in this category is Astral Mask by Evan Oxenham. This one was super well composed. I love the light here. It's a little bit dark. It's a little bit moody. Background is very kind of fun and interesting. Has a really graphic kind of a quality and appeal. I like the toned black and white and the position, just sort of the shape of the two dancers in contrast with one another is really well done. And their outfits are awesome, the way it's reflecting light. So really great job here. And then the last one, as far as honorable mentions in this category, is by Kevin Rose, entitled Dairy Farmer. This is a classic, Vermont kind of a portrait here. Just super, super well done. Well composed, wonderful soft light. The man looks like he has a lot of character, great expression. I love the pipe is just an added element that kind of gives it's like the cherry on top. And this one kind of, people were going to react emotionally to this one, in different ways. But I think, for me, I connected to this because, this represents to me sort of like, the old timers of Vermont and sort of, the dying dairy industry, if you will, and just sort of like times gone by. So really great shot. Well done. All right. The next category is sort of the catch-all category of other. And for first place, we have an image titled Scabiosa Pods by Richard Cohen. And this image, I jumped right off the table as soon as I walked over to the category. It has a marvelous illustrative kind of quality to it. It almost didn't, seem as if it was a photograph. It seemed like just a perfectly executed, watercolor and ink. It's super sharp, well composed. I like the high key presentation, the subtle textures and colors, the repeating pattern of these pods, the nice use of color. We've got some nice contrasting colors there between the magenta and pinks on the right and the greens on the left. Super well printed, very nicely presented. So nice job, Richard. In number 2 spot, this is by Patricia Richard, Teaching Hands, another sort of really classic kind of an image. I think the use of black and white here was very good because it's a very high contrast scene. It's nicely presented. I like the sort of weathered hands. And the light is really interesting, makes for some nice textures, really brings out the lines and the wrinkles and things like that. And the highlights were pretty nicely handled. So good job there. The first runner-up here is by Kitty Stanley, Coming into the Plaza. I thought this was a really cool photo. Again, it almost didn't seem like a photographic print. It seemed almost like a pencil drawing. It was very graphic. This was a contender for the number 2 spot. This was a tough decision for me. I thought the presentation was really good. I love the repetition of all the shape and lines. There are a lot of really hard angles, and then there's a mix of those of 1 or 2 circular shapes, with the drains there. That was very good. So nicely done there. And the next honorable mention, Tahitian Bridal Veil Blossom by Stephen Bay. This one was wonderful too. I love the contrast range. I like the soft but intense light. I like that sort of low-key presentation where the blossom is clearly the brightest thing in the frame. And there's just wonderful contrast range, and that touch of yellow in the center of the blossom is very nice. And then the final honorable mention here in the other category, Bookworms by Larry Killian. This is awesome. At first I thought maybe it was like a composite, but then as you know, obviously the text was added, but then it looks as though it's more of a still life. I thought it was very, very creative. I thought I wanted to definitely you know, give it some kind of accommodation for this category. And you know, as anyone who's a Harry Potter fan can relate with Potter's glasses there. So nicely done. That's a fun image. All right, the next category was under 18, and I absolutely love seeing the artwork and seeing images from the next sort of generation of photographers, if you will, and I'm super excited to see the images that were submitted by y'all. This was the #1 spot by Ezra Mcginley Smith, called Eye in the Sky. Very eye-catching. The colors are really pop. That's what draws you right in. I like the mix of warm colors with the pinks as well as the cooler tones in the sky. And then there's a great repetition of color and shape with the petals and the flowers. And then there are also similar shapes in the clouds, right? So we've got these chevron shapes kind of coming out from the middle and that crazy eye, you know, in the center. And then we've got, you know, additional, you know, somewhat similar shapes and similar color in the sky. And it all contrasts really nicely against that blue. So nicely done, Ezra. And then the second place for this category is called Midnight Circle, again by Ezra Mcginley Smith. This is a cool photo. I really like this night photo. Looks like the moon kind of coming through some high clouds. He did a great job with the composition. I like the symmetry of it. I like the centered composition here, and I like how there's sort of like that round, you know, almost like sundog or moondog kind of halo, where the moon is kind of burning through the clouds that just frames the canopy of this lone tree. And then of course we also have in the print, it really stood out. It's kind of small on screen here, but this great shadow of all the tree branches kind of coming right at you in the foreground. So there's some really good visual interest and leading lines there. So really well seen, nicely done. And then for our first honorable mention here, we have Wings Above / Creek by Anna King. Just really well done. Good use of negative space, you know, nice blue sky, perfect position of the heron taking off. The bird's got a nice shape to it. The print was nice and sharp. The processing looked really good. So this was a nice image. Well done. And then the second honorable mention here, this was another really good one. This is by Aidan Davey, Curious Hummingbird. Similar to the owl photo that we saw earlier, it's nice and sharp. Depth of field is well handled here. What needs to be sharp is nice and sharp. You know, the hummingbird's eye is tack sharp. There's that nice little catch light in the eye. Again, there's a little bit more space to the right of the bird because we've got, you know, a little bit of an implied, you know, direction of movement here. So we want a little bit more space in front of the bird. And then the position of the wings is perfect, you know, perfectly outstretched. There's a little bit of texture there, but we see that they're moving. So it's got a lot of life and a lot of energy. So really nicely done. Nice simple background too. Good job, Aiden. And then the final category of awards for the first time entering the Eldon Murray goes to Anna King for Forgotten Notes. So nice job, Anna. We already talked about this image, so I won't repeat myself. And then the library's choice, the Emil Rube. Am I supposed to do this one? Oh no, I'm not supposed to do this one.
I'll do that one, Kurt.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
So,
Kurt.
Yeah, my pleasure.
You have something else to say, Kurt?
No,
Okay.
I'm good. I'm good. And once again, you guys, everybody, really nice job. It was very difficult choosing these winners. I think they were all super amazing images. And remember what I said about, you know, at the beginning, you have to, you know, it's important that the images are meaningful for you, and that has to be good enough. So well done, everyone.
Thanks, Kurt. Excuse me. So Emil Rube Award is the print that the library staff decide to add to our circulating print collection. And it's always a really hard award to choose, which is a good problem to have, I'm going to say. I'm not the only one who helps choose it. Jared Jenish, who's another programming librarian here at the library, helped me choose it as well. And we went with Tig Tillenhouse, Fabulous Bear. Because I feel like I'm going to echo what Kurt said, but like that bear's expression is just fabulous. It's at a kind of a different angle. It's in a wonderful forest background. And we think our patrons will really like having, we like the fox too. We did consider the fox, but we like the bear. So we also went to the bear because that just that expression, right? And we hope our patrons will enjoy checking it out and hanging it up on their wall, in their office, at home, wherever. So Tig, I'm actually going to take this one from you. You won't be able to pick it up, but I hope you'll be okay with that because you get $100 check. So, and then anyone else who got, I'll just mention this really quick. Anyone else who got first or second place, you get a book prize. Yay! So I'll be emailing you in the next day or two about your prize.
Perfect. All right. Anything else, Megan?
Thanks for entering.
Okay.
This is like honestly one of my favorite. I mean, Jared and I've since taken over the Ledyard Gallery, but before we took it over, this was one of the shows I managed, and it was always my favorite because I love seeing what everyone submits, and it's always a great show. So I always look forward to it every year.
Okay.
And I'm not just saying that because you're all on the call. Like I genuinely love the show.
How long are the prints on display?
They're up until, I'm gonna double check my calendar because I have too many dates in my head. It comes down, the last day to see it is March 2nd.
Yep, March 2nd. Yep, till March 2nd. And
you can, oh, sorry, Lisa.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say it's so
you
well
can see
worth
it whenever the library is open. We are open 7 days a week, Monday to Thursday. That's 9 a.m. We open an hour early now, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Fridays and Sundays, it's 12 to 5, and Saturdays, it's 10 to 5. And Hanover still has a mask mandate, so we do ask you to wear a mask when you come in. And if you forget yours, we have extras.
Perfect. And if you haven't been there before, it's upstairs in the library. And they always have somebody at the info desk when you first come in, and you can certainly ask them, but it is upstairs, and it is just wonderful. So congratulations to everybody again, and to the winners and honorable mentions. Job well done, and thrilled that you all got on. And we hope to be able to do this next year again, but maybe all in person, which would be fun.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So stay warm, enjoy the snow, and keep on shooting, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, everybody. Thanks, Kurt.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Kurt. And thank you, Lisa and George.
You bet.